Okay, so the context for what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to kind of zoom into a first year module that I teach. Business and Digital Technology Students is the course, and the module is Employability and Work-Based Learning. So embedded into that course, we have academic advisor group sessions, not the individual ones that come later, employability skills, academic skills, and also an applied group project where the students teach digital skills to local community groups. I'm going to focus in about trying to scaffold the process of reflection, which doesn't come easy. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the Gibbs reflective cycle. So, these are the things that you'd want to focus on and get the students to do. And in short, it's the what, the so what, and the now what. Now, if we give our students a Word document and say, go away and write 500 words, 1,000 words, and expect them to come back with a page full of interesting content to start with, that doesn't happen, or at least it doesn't with mine. They're blank, they need some focus and scaffolding. So what I introduced was the use of Lego and Lego serious play. If you've come across that, some of you will have, some of you won't have. And I'll tell you a bit more about that in a second. But the aim of this was to have a bit of a fun session for the students to get to know each other, because obviously they're all new, the first year students, to learn how to reflect and focus on the recognition. The example that I'm going to give you is focusing on obstacles that students might face coming into university, that they actually have similar concerns as each other. And through that process, we can signpost the support and guidance available. So a quick slide just on Lego Serious Play. It is a real thing, and you can read up about that later should you want to. But essentially, it's using Lego to get participants to build models to represent the question that they've been tasked with. So we could ask the students questions like this and ask them just to speak to us. Why have something that they can sort of focus on? But what we found with the Lego Serious Play is that you can change the questions slightly, and the way it works is that we have the same small bag of Lego that every student has, or any participant has, within Lego Serious Play. So they have the same amount of Lego bricks. They'll have one minifigure in there. So you can start off with a bit of an icebreaker to say, build a tower or build a bridge or something of that nature, so that it shows the participants that everybody's going to be doing something different with the same Lego bricks. So whatever they build is whatever it is that comes out, and you can focus in on that. So we can change the questions to, for example, build something that represents what inspired you to come to Sheffield Hallam, which is the university that I'm at. The one I'm going to focus on today is build something that represents obstacles new students might face when starting at university. And that's a subtle difference. So the focus is not on them. It could be their peers, because the peers have got some issues, concerns, worries. It could, of course, be themselves, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And other examples I've looked at as part of that session is build something that represents what good teamwork should look like and what it looks like when it goes wrong. So some interesting models. So you tend to give them a little bit of time to prepare those models. We have a discussion afterwards, and then we go on to the next focus. So that's kind of how it works. And these are some quick photographs of what the students build in sessions. So I'm not going to zoom into those in particular for sake of time, but going back to the question about the obstacles, these are 9 things that came up in the session. In fact, these 9 things come up on subsequent years in the sessions as it happens. So as you can see there, things like making friends, they're feeling homesick, being able to feed themselves for the ones that are actually living in student accommodation. We have a lot of commuter students. Finance and budgeting, getting to know people, balancing outside commitments is also a really important thing that they worry about. So what we do when they've built their models that represent that, each student has to speak to their model in turn, and then as tutors, because there's normally two of us in the large classroom, we then start to talk about, well, the support for this is here, and you direct them to what can actually help them. And that might be the module leader, it might be the course leader, it might be the student union, their academic advisor to go into more depth. You know, there's lots of different places that can go. So after the session, what I did was put that information into an infographic poster. So they're the 9 things that came up in the session. An infographic poster, if you don't know, is a long poster. You can save that as a ping image and actually put that into your VLE so the students can go back into the student support section to remind them about where do we get the support for the things that we were talking about. So just to quickly go through the different categories, because obviously that was quite small. You can see you can give them some other prompts of, you know, where they can get that help, things that we discussed, but they can go back to some tips in there as well of what they can do to help themselves, etc. So I'll just flick through those there. And of course, bringing it back to the fact that they do have an academic advisor, and, you know, typically at least one of us in the room is their academic advisor. So they've met them. And then we get them to feed that information into their Pebble Pad e-portfolio. So that's made of lots of different activities that they have to put evidence into and reflect on at the end of the module. But in terms of the reflection for this first example that they've had to undertake, is that they can use the photograph, write a couple of sentences, and that started them on the way. So they get a feel of what reflection is. And then you can go into a bit more depth and scaffold the reflections. So going back to the Gibbs thing, we create these prompt cards and we ask them to reflect on skills that they've either developed or in the process of developing. And then they can use these cards to actually help them start to put some sentences in there, because at first, of course, it's quite hard to think of, you know, what on earth am I going to write about, and that gets easy, and they practice that and they have to reflect on 10 skills during the module. They also, we use Pebble Pad as our e-portfolio. Obviously, there's others out there. We also use video. You could use audio. We get them to reflect on an About Me video. They reflect in semester 2 on group work. How did that go? And they also reflect, as I mentioned, in more detail as a blog, 10 small short blogs on their skills in the written form. And that's really helped them progress that. And obviously there's lots of other things in the whole portfolio, but I don't have time to go into those today. And that's the end of my presentation. So any questions, and I'll stop sharing there.
Thank you so much, Sue. And what better way to finish a webinar than talking about Lego? Who doesn't love that? So really great. Thank you. Okay, we do have time for some questions. So if you have a question for Sue, please raise your hand and we will allow you to ask it.
One there about wondering if you could use dough, so flour and water, or Play-Doh. Yes, you can. You can get them to do drawings, you know, give them some pens. You can get them to create zines, so give them old magazines that they can cut up and create collages and that sort of things. There's a variety of different ways that you can take the focus away from them, so that when all the class are looking at them talking, they can kind of look at the model, and the people are looking at the model or the drawing or whatever the example of the craft that you're using is there. And that really helps particularly the shy students, and you know, to be fair, a lot of them are very shy in the first few weeks anyway.
Great, thank you. Sarah, I've just allowed you to present, so you should be able to unmute yourself to ask the question. Sarah Paddock,
right.
would you like to
I've
ask
got the
question?
power now. Yes. Yeah, so I was having a few freezing issues and couldn't hear Sue for a bit. So yeah, thanks, Sue. I loved the session, and I didn't get to join for the whole thing, but I use Lego a lot in learning design sessions. And I just wanted to ask you whether you mentioned any uses for remote learning sessions. I've got a few strategies I use, and I was just interested in anything you use.
I didn't mention it on this particular one, but it is something that I've considered in previous years, and obviously when we went through having to be online part of the time, you can kind of adapt what you're doing. So you could ask students, have they got some Lego at home, or you could get them to get some pens or crayons, or if they've got Play-Doh, if they've got younger siblings, or so you can adapt that. You could get them to use the whiteboard. It's just doing something a little bit more creative than
exactly.
Just
it's
the
brilliant.
text.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Sarah, maybe if you wouldn't mind, you could stick in the chat how you've been doing it with your kind of with your students. I think that'd be really interesting.
Add. I'm just trying to add a couple of pictures, but I'm not able to do that by the look of it. So I could just describe. So we've talked about building what you think a course should look like, and I've built one which is narrow, difficult to navigate, to open up discussions with people who are involved in course design, and ended up building a different version which is wide, playful, accessible, no barriers, lots of ways of demonstrating understanding through lots of modes and media, lots of choice, and then also used it as icebreakers, where inviting students on online only courses where they're all remote, inviting them to use an object in their environment rather than saying, what do you do and what have you studied and what's your favorite book, making a low stakes icebreaker using playful objects.
That's really good. Another one is getting a photograph, isn't it? Which they could take themselves or get that off, wherever. That photo elicitation where you can use that.
We asked them to send in a photo of their favorite food as a low stakes starter. It's getting that playfulness, that openness, and that lower leveling before you get into any academic presence or any need for people to feel that they've got to demonstrate some kind of credentials.
Great, thank you, Sarah, and that's really good. So we do have probably time for one more question. I'm going to read it out because there's one in the Q&A, if that's okay, because I don't think there are any other hands up right now. Vicky Dale has asked, do you need to be a trained Lego Serious Play facilitator to use it in class?
I would say no. If you've experienced a session yourself, I think it's, in a small scale. I am a trained facilitator, and I did go to a three-day workshop, and that, you can do workshops that last all day. You can have them that go over 2 days. The kinds of things that we do in class. We've got a short span of time. It's normally maybe an hour, or if you luxury, you've got two hours, but an hour's enough. And I think that playful learning, there's enough out there now, in the literature, we can get ideas and sessions that people have done that, you could easily do that yourself. But I would say experience a session, because you can learn a lot. I certainly did. And I was fascinated and hooked, and have been ever since.
Oh, that's really great. I was in a very serious Lego play session with my 5-year-old at 4:30 this morning. So I haven't done the course yet, but it's have you got any tips on someone who is interested? So maybe this is the first time they've heard of it. What would you recommend kind of the first thing that they should do? Obviously, they've seen this video, which is great, or this session, sorry, but what would be the next steps?
Well, to join a session, I think in a lot of conferences now, there tends to be, not all ones, but there'll be somebody doing a Lego Serious Play one. Suzanne Faulkner at Strathclyde is an absolute guru. She's incredible at teaching people how to do that. She's actually been out to Denmark on a number of occasions, so she's continued that training as well. So she's a good person to reach out to. But just to give it a go, and I'm sure on if you do a sweep of YouTube, there'll be some things out there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But
Sue, thank you so much.
We
have reached time. We could probably talk for another hour, but I think people probably want to to kind of go and
Thanks
get a
for
coffee.
everybody that stayed on till the end, because it sounds as though a long afternoon.
It's been good. It's been really good. I personally,
Fortunately,
I've
I've
really
been in
enjoyed
a
it. So
meeting all afternoon, so I've missed it. But thankfully, the recordings are there, aren't they? Which is wonderful. So thanks, Phil, for organising this. It's brilliant.
absolutely. No, you're more than welcome. So yeah, that's kind of a seamless link there, Sue. So yes, we have recorded the session. I will break up the recording into individual recording links and we'll put them on our YouTube channel. I'll repost it here just so everyone's got access to it. But I will also email the link to those recordings to the mailing list, which everyone here will be on. And then you can subscribe or just access it whenever you would like. So I hope that you find those useful.